Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is JohnJake Baseball on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the USBL here on MLB The Show 21. And oh my goodness, unless y'all been living under a rock, we had ourselves an amazing World Series, a World Series that actually went 7 games. It went the distance. It was a real exciting series, man, like straight up and down. The Game 7 premiere, that was a fun one to watch for sure. Definitely an old-fashioned pitcher's duel. So what I'm going to do here today, I'm going to kind of recap season number 1. The best of my abilities, just kind of talking about, checking out the awards for season 1, because I don't think we ended up doing that at the end of the regular season. And I'm also going to go ahead and explain how the offseason is going to work, because I'm probably not going to go ahead and do the offseason all in one episode. I'll probably do like an offseason, like mostly offseason, one episode, and then do kind of like a season preview for year number 2 in a separate episode, so that neither episode will be too terribly long. I'm hoping, but yeah, that's how I'm playing. If you're excited about today's episode of USBL, by the way, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe if you happen to be brand new, as well as, hey, what are we waiting for, man? Let's go ahead and kind of recap. We had a great season. We really did. It's been an amazing season number 1 here of the USBL. I definitely really appreciated, how it all turned out. Definitely a few things that I want to tweak, which I'll get into later. But for right now, let's go ahead and check out the awards, and get that, all taken care of. And, why not? Let's start with the American League, because the American League has the team that ended up winning the championship at the end of the season. Starting with MVP, we had some good guys there, some great hitters throughout the season, but Nolan Arenado does end up winning MVP, and look at the season this guy has. He ends up he bats .290, so that's up from last season, and then he also ends up with 52 home runs and also 117 RBIs on top of it, and he only ends up striking out 101 times, which for a guy that played 157 games in a season, that's really good. And this is a guy right here. He's in his prime right now, 99 overall. He's 29 years old. And he's signed for foreseeable future. This is a guy. The New York Knights did not make the playoffs, but Nolan Arenado really showed out. I can't wait to see what this guy can do going forward. Eloy Jimenez wasn't too far behind. He ended up having himself like a breakout year as well. He's only 24 years old, you guys. And look what he ends up doing. 87 overall, 299 batting average, 47 home runs, 124 RBIs. And then in third place, we had Pete Alonso of the Baltimore Stonecrabs, 265 batting average, 48 home runs, and 129 RBIs. So that's really awesome to see. Then for the Cy Young over the American League, that actually is going to go over to Steven Strasburg. And it's an interesting decision, I would think like Garrett Cole would get a little bit more love, and maybe those 11 losses are holding him back, but maybe that's more of his team holding him back a little bit. The Nashville Blues, they did not have a good season whatsoever. We can check out the standings as well after we finish checking out the awards here, but I mean, the dude had a 2.57 ERA. That's pretty darn good considering both the AL and the National League, they both had a designated hitter, right? So Jacob deGrom does finish in second place, though. That might be because of his name a little bit, because he had like a 3.93 ERA, had 247 strikeouts. So, but Steven Strasburg, representing the Las Vegas Lounge Wizards, does end up winning that Cy Young award over on the American League. 17-7, man. That's a pretty nice record to have. Then as for the batting title goes to the player that has like the highest batting average in the entire league. In the American League, that does end up being Michael Brantley. He ended up batting .314, with Christian Yelich not too far behind. He ended up batting .304, and Will Smith ended up batting .302. But Will Smith, he was more of an all-around guy than Michael Brantley and Yelich. He, not only hit for contact, he hit for power as well. Ended up with 37 home runs and 95 RBIs as well. So he had a nice all-around season, but Michael Brantley is going to win the batting title. As for reliever of the year, Aroldis Chapman, who we did know quite a bit during this postseason, he ended up with 55 saves in this one, but he didn't even have the most saves in the regular season, man. Brandon Workman had 57 saves, and he was insane in the regular season. 1.21 ERA. Also had 68 strikeouts to show for it there as well. So Brandon Workman, he was out there really giving people the business. Giovanni Gallegos, he was pretty solid too. 46 saves on the season. Part of a San Jose squad that did end up falling apart a little bit towards the end. Brandon Workman, he is a little bit older though, 32 years old, so we'll see how much longer he keeps it up, but he does win reliever of the year. As for rookie of the year, we had some good rookies this season, but one rookie that particularly stood out is on this Detroit Leopard squad, Alberto Yabera. He's only 23 years old, but doesn't have like a lot of potential. But what he did do on the field, he was doing a pretty good job, honestly. 298, 20 home runs, 85 RBIs. Ken Grubb was really giving him a run for his money. 256 batting average, 25 home runs, 78 ribbies. But whenever we saw Ken Grubb play, like not in a simulated situation, like he did a really good job. Then Fad Gonzalez did some good work as well as a rookie. Did some nice stuff over in that hot corner. 279 batting average, 20 home runs, and 73 RBIs. And he's only 18 years old. He's only going to get better from here. I can't wait to see what the future holds for this guy. Alberto Yabera, we'll see if this is his best year or not. Hopefully he gets a bump in his potential or something, because that could be a tough one to deal with. As for the Hank Aaron Award, the Hank Aaron Award is given to the top hitter in each league. So that'll be the guy that, I guess like most all around. And they're going to give it to Eloy Jimenez, who did finish second place in MVP voting. 47 home runs. Look who's behind him, Mike Trout. They had two of the top players in for the Hank Aaron Award and found a way to not make the playoffs. That's crazy. Will Smith too. We talked about Will Smith. He was in the running for the batting title as well. He also finishes third place for the Hank Aaron Award. Then we go into Gold Glove Awards that officially have been handed out. And this is what we got. For the pitching position, we have Zach Davies, the starting pitcher for the San Antonio Outlaws. The 28-year-old starting pitcher. Ended up not doing great pitching-wise. 7.411. Ended up with a 3.27 ERA, but did some good stuff in the field. Then over at catcher, we have Yasmani Grandal, who was actually acquired mid-season from the Boston Quakers, and he ends up winning a Gold Glove Award, even though it doesn't help that he got the he did not help his team get to the playoffs, unfortunately, but he did have one of the higher fielding averages. I'm surprised he didn't give it to Christian Vasquez, because he did have more putouts and had a higher fielding percentage even because of it. But I guess that's a little bit biased towards the New York market. But still, Yasmani Grandal did a really good job this season. Speaking of the Boston Quakers, though, we do see Max Muncy win it at first base. He sports a 9.92 fielding average, but again, feels like there might be a little bit of a snub, but not as much of an argument though. Ken Grubb, 9.94, but with less putouts. Jose Abreu probably could have. This was a really close one. This could have gone to anybody. But Max Muncy's going to take it home for the Boston Quakers. Then second base, we got Colton Wong. He ends up winning it for the Columbus Jets. Very close to being perfect out in the field. Had 250 putouts, over the course of the season with over 330 assists. This is the second year in a row that a Columbus Jet has won the award, at least according to, before the rebrand. At third base, not only does Nolan Arenado end up winning American League MVP, but he does also end up winning the Gold Glove over at third base. Doing some good stuff. Over 100 putouts, over 200 assists as well. Travis Shaw could have won it as well. It was certainly close. But Nolan Arenado, it's hard to compete against an MVP if they're going to give it to him. Meanwhile, at shortstop, rounding out the infield, we have Paul DeJong ends up winning the Gold Glove over at shortstop, and there's not really much complaint there. Then we move on to the outfield. Barry Gasaldo does win at left field for the Baltimore Stone Crabs. I think David Dahl could have won it. He does have a higher fielding percentage and has more putouts out there in the outfield, so he had some more action, but they do decide to give it to Gary Gastaldo, who's a pretty young player too, only 25 years old, and he's doing a pretty nice job of developing. He's up to a 28 over, or not 28, that would be ridiculously low. He is a 78 overall already. Then in center field, we got Jake Marinowski. He was included in one of the trades, to bring in some youthful talent, or at least like a starting caliber player at center field. Kind of a glue player, but for right now, he's holding on to that center field spot. He wins Gold Glove there. Ramon Laureano gave him a run for his money, but ultimately what he did was not enough. They will give it to the Boston Quakers center fielder. Speaking of the Boston Quakers, they had a pretty nice defensive team, man. Mookie Betts wins Gold Glove, but I mean, we can't discount Aaron Judge either from the Seattle Pilots, who also had a perfect fielding position, percentage as well, a 1,000 fielding percentage. It's pretty darn good stuff if you ask me, man. That is some really nice stuff that you love to see. The Boston Quakers, they had a really good defense, and Boston did play better in the second half, but what they did in the first half, just took them completely out of it. It's a tough one to see. Then we go with the Silver Slugger awards, and Silver Slugger is a little bit different. We'll start with the designated hitter. We do have Xander Bogaerts, who does end up winning it, who was listed as a shortstop, but will get the Silver Slugger as a designated hitter. Then at the catch position, Will Smith wins it handily, just dominating the rest of the catchers in this league. Then at first base, we have Pete Alonso, who finished third place in the MVP voting as well. Over at second base, we have Keston Hiura, who almost led the upset of the Chicago Freeze in the ALCS, but they just fell just short. He batted 288, 40 home runs, and 122 RBIs. He's only 24 years old, too. He's only going to get better from here. Meanwhile, at third base, no surprises here. Nolan Arenado. So he adds to his hardware an MVP award and a Gold Glove. Also wins that Silver Slug to go with it. Manny Machado, trying to give him a run for his money, but those 52 home runs are simply too hard to ignore.
I love you.
At shortstop, we have Fernando Tatis Jr., who ends up winning at that shortstop position. 271, 31 home runs, and 112 ribbies. Only 22 years old. He's already one of the biggest stars in baseball. His contact versus left-handed pitching is, taking a noticeable dive, but he's still listed as a 95 overall. Meanwhile, in the outfield, we end up seeing Eloy Mendez win it. He was second in MVP voting. We see Ronald Acuna Jr. out in center field get there. He only bat 256, but he had 44 ribbies as well, home runs as well. So that's probably a big factor in why he got that award. Then in the other outfield spot, that actually goes to Nelson Cruz, who actually didn't play much outfield. He's getting a little bit older, but he can still hit 298. We'll see how long he remains on a USBL roster, because he is only a 70 overall. We'll see if he ends up retiring at the end of the season or not, but if this is the last season, at least he showed that he still had something left in the tank and gave the Cleveland Rockers, some good production even at 40 years old. Then we move on to postseason MVP, and that's going to go to Michael Brantley, who had a pretty good postseason, 333, 5 home runs, and 10 RBIs. Surprised they went with him over Joey Gallo, who had 10 home runs and 18 RBIs, but that batting average was probably a difference there. And then World Series MVP is actually going to go to Chris Taylor. He was electric in terms of batting, 440, a home run, and 5 RBIs. So with the American League sorted out, we'll go ahead and jump into the National League, which turned out into more of a two-man race, but it looks like Yordan Alvarez is going to get that nod for the National League MVP award. Alvarez was pretty nice. 23 years old, and he's already a 91 overall. He did bat 302, 42 homers on 116 RBIs. But Paul Goldschmidt was also pretty good in his own right. 306 batting average, 42 home runs, 106 RBIs as well. It was a really close MVP race between these two guys, and I have no issue if either of them ended up winning it. It was an exciting race. San Francisco did get the last laugh here. They did go to the World Series, defeating the New Orleans Kings, but Alvarez at least gets some hardware in the process. As for the Cy Young Award, we'll see Kyle Hendricks bring it home, and he had a really good year. 20-8 with a 2.62 ERA and 166 strikeouts, dominating over Shane Bieber and Walker Buehler of the Louisville Colonials. So congratulations to Kyle Hendricks from the LA Saints. Meanwhile, the batting title is going to go to Anthony Rendon, batting .310. That is the highest batting average in the National League. Also had some pop as well. 38 home runs, 95 RBIs. We do see Paul Goldschmidt here as well. He finishes second in MVP voting and will finish third for the batting title. As for the Reliever of the Year award, this was really just a two-man race just because look how dominant Kalen Jensen was. And that was a big reason why Indianapolis did make the playoffs. Other than the fact that they did have a pretty small, they had a pretty weak division. That's probably another reason. But Kalen Jensen was pretty good too. On top of that, Kalen Jensen had an ERA of less than 1 over the course of a long season, like the USBL season. That's really darn good. Brad Hand, we saw a lot of him in the postseason as well. He ends up finishing second in this Reliever of the Year award. 47 saves, 1.34 ERA, and 59 strikeouts over the course of the regular season. Both of these guys are pretty darn good, man. And Kalen Jensen, I don't know how much longer we'll see him. Maybe this is the best season that he'll have in the USBL, but he gave it a pretty good ride. As for Rookie of the Year, they're going to go ahead and give it to Fernando Mendoza. He only has C potential. I don't know how much he, grows from here, but he had a good rookie year, though. 274, 19 home runs, and 72 RBIs. They were thinking about giving it to George Herrera or Rick Slade, but neither of them really were impressive enough, as starting pitchers. So I guess, get that kind of love. So they'll give it, they kind of favor batters a little bit more so. But so congratulations, Fernando Mendoza of the Memphis Bobcats. Part of a young youth movement in Memphis, by the way. I can't wait to see what the future holds for that organization in general. Meanwhile, for the Hank Aaron Award, not only will we end up seeing Anthony Rendon win the batting title, but also the Hank Aaron Award. This one is a little bit surprising because I figured it would go to the top home run hitter. Guess they're not doing that for the National League. So Paul Goldschmidt feeling a little bit robbed, finishing second place in MVP voting. Maybe could have made the case to go ahead and jump Anthony Rendon, but I don't know. Maybe that batting average is just a little too much to overcome. I don't know. Kind of an interesting decision in my opinion. And then we'll jump into the Gold Glovers now for the National League. We will see Cico Sanchez, who was perfect from that pitching position, representing the Indianapolis Indians. Then at catcher, we'll see Wilson Ramos there at catcher, and that's probably from all the putouts that he had. Buster Posey and even JT Realmuto both could have had an argument to win this Gold Glove, but they will give it to Wilson Ramos, the 33-year-old on the Jacksonville Suns. Then at first base, it will go to Joey Votto, and to a degree, we can see that Joey Votto can still bang. He hits 26 home runs over the course of the season, but he's on a quick decline. We'll see. He might have a year or two left in the tank. Jamie Lacy could have certainly won this award as well. He had more putouts from that first base position and had a higher fielding percentage as well on top of it, but probably because he's just a little bit too young. They did call him up in the early portion of the season. He's a 70 overall kind of guy. Able to go ahead and, he had a good season. Don't get me wrong, but Joey Votto, probably from the popularity, wins that first baseman Gold Glove award. Then at second base, we'll see Ozzie Albies, who almost helped the San Francisco Seals win the World Series, win a Gold Glove over at second base. So no surprises there. At third base, we see Jameer Candelario, Candelario, I believe that's how you say his name. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too terribly bad, but he wins it over at third base. The 27-year-old doing some good work as an 81 overall. Charlotte Cougars, by the way, watch out for them. They finished last place in the division this season, but probably the best 5th place team. They could make a playoff run next season. Over at shortstop, rounding out the infield, we see Francisco Lindor with the only shortstop with fielding percentage above 99%. The 27-year-old, nice little star player, man. 280 batting average, 22 home runs and 60 ribbies. So not a bad season for Lindor, who ends up taking the award home. Then we get into left field. We see Marcell Ozuna, win the Gold Glove Award in left field for the Charlotte Cougars. The 30-year-old, showing not only he can get it done with the bat, but also with the glove. Then at center field, Brian Buxton actually had a perfect season. So did Kevin Kiermaier. Could have gone to either person. It was a really close one, but Brian Buxton will get the nod there. And then at right field, the only perfect right fielder in the National League is JJ Bleday. His team was eliminated in the division series, but we will at least see that. No, they actually went to the championship series, I think. I'm a little scatterbrained, so I don't know what's going on. But JJ Bleday does end up winning the Gold Glove at right field. All right, so taking a look now at the Silver Sluggers at each position, and it looks like JT Realmuto is going to win Silver Slugger at the catcher position, and he had a good season. 272, 14 home runs, 73 ribbies. In this one, not known for his power. He's only hit more than 20 home runs in 2 seasons in his whole career, but I thought Wilson Ramos really deserved that Silver Slugger at catcher. He doesn't have as many RBIs, but has slightly more home runs. He also ended up batting close to 300. I thought he really deserved it either, but JT Realmuto at that catcher position was pretty good too. Then at first base, and really no surprises here, goes to Paul Goldschmidt. So one of the awards that finally Goldschmidt is not robbed of, it seems like. 306, 42 home runs, 106 RBIs. He wins that Silver Slugger at first base. Then at second base, we do see Jose Altuve win that one. 286, 25 home runs, and 74 RBIs in this over the course of the season. Then at third base, it gets a little bit interesting. Chris Bryant wins the the third base slugger, but I'm surprised they didn't give it to Anthony Rendon because he won the batting title, and I believe he also won the Hank Aaron Award as well within the National League. So that was an interesting choice, but Chris Bryant had a good year as well. 305, 33 home runs, and 99 RBIs as well. Maybe they did it based off those RBIs, but I thought Anthony Rendon was going to win it at third base. Then at shortstop, not really too many surprises here. Trevor Story, 280, 36 home runs, and 105 ribbies over the course of the season, representing 4 of those LA Saints. Now for the outfield, the top 3 outfielders ends up being Bryce Harper. Ended up batting 288, 35 home runs, 117 RBIs. He did also finish third place in the MVP voting for the Philadelphia Patriots. Nick Castellanos made it a close race, though. He did have a higher batting average, but slightly less home runs and ribbies. That was the decision maker. Meanwhile, for the other 2 outfield positions, Yordan Alvarez batting 302, 42 home runs, 116 RBIs. He was also the MVP winner for the National League. And from Mel Reyes, a little bit of a surprise here. You would think he would be able to, maybe jump over. Maybe Nick Castellanos could have been that third guy. Pretty interesting decision in my opinion, but Reyes will be considered a Silver Slugger. I thought it would go to Nick Castellanos, but that's just me. For the NL Postseason MVP, that goes to Ozzy Albies. For the National League, he batted 426, so he was balling out, but he did not win the World Series MVP though. So this is what the final standings did end up looking like here in season number 1. As we're looking around, we do see we only saw one team win over 100 games. That was the Chicago Freeze. They end up winning it all. 103 wins and 59 losses was their final record. Meanwhile, in that same division, we do see the Nashville Blues, who they weren't sellers at the trade day, but they really fell apart in that second half of the season. They finished with, I do believe, the worst record in the entire league. Yeah, they do. So Nashville will end up with the #1 overall pick in the year 2 USBL draft. So they are, I guess, now technically on the clock, and they were just atrocious on the road, 28-53. That's a really tough one. They lost 100 games as well. They're the only team in baseball, obviously, to go ahead and do that. We do see two teams making it out of the NL East. The Philadelphia Patriots. They did have the best record in the NL, but that didn't help them in their postseason run. The New Orleans Kings, they were the other team from the NL East, but they were eliminated in the wild card. It was not a good run for the division in general. In the NL Central, the Indianapolis Indians, they finished with an 85-77 record, but they won a division. It would be the only if they were in any of these other divisions here in the USBL, they would have not even made the playoffs. But because they were in the NL Central, the Indianapolis Indians, they get a little fortunate. They do end up going ahead and winning the division, and they did give the LA Saints an interesting series in the divisional round, but they were also the only team to finish above 500. A lot of these teams here just kind of underperformed, particularly the Aurora Lightning. They looked like they were in a good spot, but then second half of the season it just didn't work out for them. The NLS saw two squads make it, and actually these two teams did meet up in the NLCS, although the San Francisco Seals were the World Series representative. They finished 88-74, so they underachieved a little bit in the regular season, but they really made up for it in the playoffs. The LA Saints did win the division at 95-67 on the year, and then the Denver Bald Eagles, they had a really tough start in the first half of the season. They had like a 8-22 start to the season, so it was really rough for them, but they were able to get it together eventually. 67-95. It's not a good record by any means, but they will have the second pick in the next USBL draft, so they have an opportunity to really fill out their needs. Then in the AL East, we saw the Cleveland Rockers end up winning the division. They were the only team from the AL East to make the playoffs. The New York Knights were just short. They were in it till the end, and then the Baltimore Stone Crabs were actually eliminated by the Seattle Pilots in game number 163 because there was an actual tiebreaker in the division, in the wild card. So there was an extra game that did end up having to be played, to determine that second wild card spot, and Seattle won that, but they were eventually knocked out by the Minnesota Ducks. When it's all said and done, the Houston Astronauts did give the Chicago Freeze a good run in the American League. They pushed it to 7 games with them, but fell just short. They did finish with a 91-71 record, with the Pilots not too far behind. San Jose just had a really rough, July, early August. They just collapsed, and they tried to rally back to that last month and a half of the season, but they just couldn't do it. I don't know exactly what happened to them, to be honest with you, but it was just a rough go. This was a good division overall, though. The Lounge Wizards, they finished 4th with 75 wins, and then the San Antonio Outlaws, yes, they did finish in last place, but 72-90, that's actually not that bad, and they could bounce back too. This is just a legitimately good division in baseball. So that's going to wrap things up here, and as we go ahead and work ourselves towards the offseason, there is a couple of few executive decisions that I am going to go ahead and make. I am going to adjust the sliders a little bit because it seems like there was a lot more high-scoring games than maybe would be realistic, so I'm going to try to find some good sliders for that. I'm also going to go ahead and rebrand the Houston Astronauts a little bit, as well as relocate Detroit. But that being said, this would all be a really good time if you want to see, a rebrand of any kind for any of these teams here in the USBL. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know which team you want to see rebranded and what you want to see rebranded. Do you want to see a color change? You want to see a team name change, new ballpark, or even locating to a brand new stadium in general? Let me know all that down in the comments. I'll have a little template set up for that. But In the meantime, next episode, we will have the off season for the USBL as we go ahead and, transition into year number 2. And if you appreciate the content, man, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button. Hit subscribe as well if you have to be brand new to the channel. This is JohnJake Baseball and Mike signing off, but hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.